is WGEM Sports.
Up in the Hawkeye State, the Central East softball teams has been making waves this season. Currently ranked 14th in the state behind a high-powered offense, and we'll see that offense in just a few moments. Shannon Buford up to the dish for the Central East. She hits this one high into the sky, gets lost in the sun by the defender, the outfielder, but that would find green grass to bring home the run. Later that inning, more fortune going the way of the Hawks. A pass ball allows Central East to tack on another run, still trailing by 1 run. Jaylee Hawk up to the dish now. She sends this ball flying with the other Hawks. Another one gets away from the outfielder, and Central East knots things up at 3. Hawks would break this one wide up in the bottom of the first. JC Hawk says it's my turn on the highlight reel. She hits a laser into the gap and would clear the bases. Central Lee having no problem closing this one out. They get the win over Pekin 15-3. Staying in Iowa, HTC Softball was also in action a few miles away. Sydney Darvish in the circle for the Lady Crusaders. She was great today, blowing this pitch by the batter for the strikeout. Shifting gears to the offense in the bottom of the second, Elizabeth Griffin up to bat, and she's going to connect with this pitch, sending it straight through the middle of the infield, bringing home the RBIs, bringing home 2 in the process. They'd hustle all the way home. However, those would be the only 2 runs the Lady Crusaders would muster up today. They would go on to fall to Hillcrest 5-2. Another baseball softball action up in the Hawkeye State. Mount Pleasant sweeps Fort Madison 10-0 and then 11-3. And then Central Lee gets the win over Pekin up at the Field of Dreams. They win that one 12-2. We have more sports coverage on the way. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.